Hey everybody, I'm Chuck, and this is Troy from California, and Jeff is in Greece. It's kind of like, where in the world is Carmen San Diego? Where in the world is Jeff Sundell? Well, he's in Greece. So today, we've been talking about the priesthood of the believer, and I thought it would be good for you to join our discussion, at least hear what we're thinking and what we're talking about. So we're going to read a few scriptures, and then we're going to bounce a question back and forth. And this is going to be an ongoing series where we get to kind of flesh out things that we're thinking about with the priesthood of the believer. So the first passage that we're going to look at is 1 Peter 2:9. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. And so Troy is going to read, or Jeff is going to read Exodus 19:6.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab the verse ahead also, but now I'm verse 5. Now, if you will listen to me and carefully keep my covenant, you will be my own possession out of all the peoples, although all the earth is mine, and you will be my kingdom of priests and my holy nation. These are the words that you are to say to the Israelites.
Right. And Troy, Isaiah 61:6.
But you will be called the priests of the Lord. You will be spoken of as ministers of our God.
All right. So those are our foundational verses. Let's start with this question. Why is this topic of the priesthood of the believer so important to us?
Chuck, what jumps to mind to me right away is, of course, Genesis 1, 26, 27, just the first chapter of Genesis. God created us to multiply, not only physically, but spiritually. So the very beginning of creation starts that way. But the very final things in Revelation 5, 9 or 7, 9, and 10, I can't remember which one it is exactly. It says that there'll be a great, multitude gathered around, worshiping, crying out, Jesus is holy, holy, worthy of all praise, glory, and honor. But then it goes on to say they will be a kingdom of priests who are standing around it. Mm-hmm. And so the ground is level from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. The ground is level when it comes to the priesthood of believers, and so everything rises and falls on the priesthood of the believers.
Great. Troy, how about you? Why is this so important to you?
Well, I think number one, we want to follow God's ways, right? And so we want to live out what's biblical, and so I think that's really important. Practically speaking, people make terrible gods, and we have a tendency to either exceed the role that God's given us, or we elevate other people into a role that is not that God is supposed to sit on. And so I don't know, it just seems like we can very easily as people go back. I mean, just look at the Tower of Babel and who they thought they were versus who God was. So knowing God's vision from Genesis to Revelation, it seems like we can get in the way of that by accepting a non-biblical role in people's lives, as far as spiritual leadership, or giving that to other people instead of to God. It's
Yeah.
detrimental.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's not only a God-given privilege, it's a God-given responsibility. And when we take that away from people, we're really taking away a major opportunity to relate with Jesus on a whole new level and to relate with people on a whole new level. And we kind of strip away that opportunity, that responsibility for people to relate to one another and to God that way. So, what are some of the things that we're doing in order to give away that privilege and responsibility of the priesthood of the believer? What are some of the things we're doing?
I think one of the things is, as far as a DNA with brand new believers or with existing Christians, is I think for most of us, we're starting by a reminder from the Bible of their identity. It's rooted in Christ, and they're called to a role that's rooted in Christ. And so I think setting that identity DNA from the Bible is pretty important in establishing the priesthood of believers.
Yeah, good. Jeff, what do you think? What are we doing?
Well, I think sort of what Troy said right there is the laying the biblical foundation from the very beginning, whether a new believer or whether a mature believer. I mean, so whether it's a leader, a leader in a sense, his role is to give away the kingdom, because first of all, it's not our kingdom, it's God's kingdom, and in his sovereignty from creation to culmination, he is going to accomplish his purpose. But he has this beautiful plan where he wants to partner with us as his people, this holy chosen people. And I think as many of us, everybody's a leader one way or another, right? You either lead in a good way or you lead in a bad way. And so when you're leading, the leader who's given away the kingdom, given away responsibility, given away the kingdom, I think is emulating, whether it's something as simple or very foundational, the gospel, or your identity in Christ, or responsibility to the keys to the kingdom, to multiply disciples, which to me perpetuates the attitude of Jesus, because Jesus said that you will do greater things than I myself. And now, of course, the verse before that, he said, you can ask anything in my name. I think it's the verse before, and I will do it. As long as, the football field is his glory, as long as it's within his glory, you ask in my name, I will do it. And you will do greater things than I myself. So if that's our example as Christ, the kingly priest, that's what we should do, is give away the kingdom for his glory.
Yeah, I like that. In that first verse, 1 Peter 2:9, it says, so that we may proclaim the excellencies of him who called us out of darkness into his marvelous light. And I think one of the first speed bumps that we encountered is people don't feel either the privilege or responsibility to share the good news, to share the gospel. And here, that's one of our primary purposes as part of our identity, like Troy was talking about. We're children of light, we get to proclaim that. And it seems like, people feel like it's a speed bump that they can't get past. And we just need to clear the way, and that's one of the things that we're doing, teaching people how to confidently and competently share the gospel, even brand new believers, you know. In fact, brand new believers, I think we've all discovered they're the best evangelists, you know. They're all fired up and their lives are radically changing in front of their non-Christian, you know, friends. So it's we really have to be intentional in our culture to clear away some of these speed bumps that have crept into our practice. So we're going to continue talking about the priesthood of the believer. You know, Jesus himself encountered these speed bumps. And next time we'll talk a little bit about how did Jesus deal with these speed bumps? What did Jesus think about the priesthood of the believer? So that's all we have time for today. We love you. God bless you. And until next time, keep following Jesus.